Every year it's the same old story. Let's talk about black history, but never black glory. So our options are either trauma or slavery. And it's not that we don't appreciate the story told in Roots, but how can you teach us about the African family tree and neglect to mention the fruits? So what about the ancient Africans who created medicines, navigations, or technology? Why don't they teach us about the Dogon tribes in Mali who show knowledge of advanced astronomy? Why haven't we ever read a piece of literature or fiction about Cheddar Man, one of the oldest skeletons discovered in Britain? He had blue eyes but dark-skinned pigment. So you can teach me about Pythagoras' theorem. What about the Ishango or Lobombo bones, the world's oldest mathematical instrument? Is it because it was invented by African women, the world's first mathematicians? Using the bones to track the lunar cycle in villages, they calculated time before your Rolex. So I don't mind talking about black history, but let's not forget the black literacy, black ability, and black dignity. Let's not reduce our history to the plain and fractured pieces. Black history is the history of our species, and no matter the colour of the skin on your face, we are all African, and there is only one human race.
Why should somebody who maybe had an ancestor 7 or 8 generations ago, long before they were a twinkle in their great-great-great-great-grandparents' eye, why should they have to pay now for what an ancient ancestor did? Or why should they apologise for what an ancestor did centuries ago? Why do they still carry that burden?
Oh, it's not a burden at all. You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. So this is not a burden. You should be concerned, and you should pay, because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is the slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned, because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
So put a figure on it, please, because it always comes down to the bottom line. How much should an individual taxpayer in a country like the UK be signing a cheque to a country like yours?
Well, it's easy to calculate. We can use the time value of money. You can look at the period of slavery and the contribution not the contribution, the extraction of wealth from countries like ours. It is not only the value, it is the loss of time.
I just wonder, people will be wondering, I mean, are we talking billions, millions? What would you expect?
The calculation goes into billions for the region. And this is the problem. We live in a very unjust society. You know, we condemn completely the war in Ukraine. But if you look at the mobilization of resources in the war in Ukraine, in 2 years, you have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Haiti for 60 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Palestine for 20 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine in just 1.5 years than we mobilized to address the issue of hunger in Africa for 3 years. And that is the type of, unjust way we have been dealing with these crises. And we are not going to tolerate the injustice that occurred during slavery to be compared with any other system. Slavery, we all agree, was the greatest injustice ever done to human beings. So we should not ever try to compare this to any other system.
No.
There is no other system that has created greater injustice than slavery and indignity to humankind in slavery.
One of the points you're going to be making today is about our royal family. And you feel that it's not just about the finances involved here in terms of reparations for slavery, it's about the gestures. And you think that the British royal family should make a big gesture, don't you? What do you mean? Hand over a palace to your country?
We don't want the British to hand over a palace that we built. So if you go into many of the palaces in Britain, you will see the lovely green heartwood from Guyana. You will see the sweat, tears, and blood of the slaves who were exploited.
So what do you want?
And the revenue that was earned from their exploitation. So we're not asking for a palace. We're asking for justice and a fair form of justice to the ancestors and to the greatest injustice that has ever been done to human beings.
Why are the Black Panthers building their own medical center?
Well, first of all, the Black Panther Party, attuned to the needs of black people and other oppressed people, is open a free medical center for the same purpose we open a free breakfast center, free breakfast program. It's to let the people know that we are concerned with their basic needs and desires, and also to educate the people to the fundamentals of socialism, and also to heighten the contradictions within this capitalistic system. When I mean heighten the contradictions, all I'm saying is that let the people be aware of the fact that the Black Panther Party, an organization which only been existing since 1966, is taking care of people, helping them as far as health care is concerned, and the federal government, with all its wealth and resources, not doing anything on a major scale. You know, we in the Black Panther Party believe that there is violence in this system. When I say violence, I'm not talking about the overt violence usually associated with the club, the knife, or the gun. I'm talking about the violence perpetuated